Hey everybody. I know it's the second episode with no intro, and we're just flowing in with the music. Don't worry, it's not a change in tradition. It's just I have not been able to get the IT support until tonight. So after the show is over tonight, after the flip side is over, it'll be a shortened flip side because I got to leave the keys to Jim Lee so he can get in here and try to figure out, again, what a combination of Windows and OBS continues to screw with people. And you should see, it's popping up all over the tech forums. Every time there's a tiny little update, they make the need for 5 more updates. Absolute losers. Just losers, you know? But I'm happy to be here with you tonight on this Monday, August 17th, 2026, and I'm really excited to speak with an old friend tonight, Rich Baris. It's been a long time. I don't know the last time he's been on the show. I think he's been on with me once in 2026. I think that we spent at least one day on air since New Year's, right? Anyway, he'll be back on tonight. Got a whole bunch of shit I want to talk to him about. And then the second half, it's just going to be wide open. So many topics, whatever the hell you guys and gals want to bring to the table. There's a lot of things that happen over the weekend. Some thoughts. We on our little cigar stream at, it was like 11:30 at night on Saturday night. Went live on the back porch with the cigars. And we spoke and we listened to music and we were just talking about this, that, and the other. The Candace Owens and Andrew Wilson debate came up. Reserved some thoughts for tonight too, for people that didn't see that on Saturday night. Not too much, but of course I'll just enough to open up the door to see what the hell you guys and gals think about that and anything else. It was a pretty busy weekend as far as the news goes, if you give a shit about all of that still. And that's a big part about this tonight. I have some polls that were conducted by, I think, Reuters. Is it Reuters? Where the whole hell is it? Yeah. It's Reuters Institute. Overall key findings of the 2026 Digital News Report that came out late June of 2026. And I kept it on ice for the night that I spoke with Rich, because I knew that we had to speak at some point because half of the year is gone and we haven't caught up. And he's had a very interesting year as well too. Rich he's been in the trenches in X, over there on X and elsewhere, sounding the alarm. Doesn't like the direction that the Trump administration is going in. Is trying to say, hey, the polls look like doom, and that's caused some food fighting. I've noticed it. It's very hard not to notice. So we'll see how the hell all that is going on. But in the meantime, there's a very important chat poll that's live on YouTube. And we have just about 100 of you have voted so far. We need hundreds and hundreds more, though. So just pop over on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment in the chat room, vote in the poll. Then you can go watch wherever you want for 7 o'clock. But wherever the hell you're watching, like, comment, subscribe, and put the notifications on. This way we can override all the stupid platform recommendation shit that goes on everywhere. Right now, the question is, how has your appetite for news changed over the last few years? I follow more now than ever before. About the same. I follow less now, or I'm completely burnt out. And not completely unsurprising. 41% I'm completely burnt out, and 38% I follow less now than ever before. So that's nearly 40%. That's nearly 80% right there. And you have 11% say I follow more. Oh, no, 10% now. It's shifting. 10% says I follow more. 12% says about the same. So hey, that's where I'm at too. That's where I'm at too, ladies and gentlemen. What do you want me to say? I think that's why we vibe so well together. But tonight, it's a Monday after a busy weekend. I like seeing what happened in the news. I have some other things I want to do on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I got some interesting topics and everything else planned for the rest of the week. So that should be nice. But for tonight, here's another thing for you. Hold on a second. Look at this. Axios, Robot Book Club. I think that this is self-explanatory right here. Apparently, AI is reading books for you. It's becoming people's reading companions, reading buddies. Every time you read a chapter, you put a book down, you pick it back up again. It's one AI program or another is telling you what happened up until the point you left off, refreshing you and all that shit. Ladies and gentlemen, join the Quite Frankly book club. You're going to read 3 to 5 books a year, and you will retain what happened in those books because you read some chapters, you get together with us, we talk about it in a live setting. I'm telling you, retention, the books come to life when you got other human beings to talk to. It is so fun. Don't sink into AI reading buddies. Please join the culture club. That's all I'm going to say. I saw this. I almost got sick to my stomach. AI is not going to read Huckleberry Finn with you. You know how many N-words are in that book? AI is not going to read that book with you. It's going to give you a disclaimer. It's going to put its hands over your eyes. No. We did the nasty together. Anyway, there's that. And then we have this before we bring on Rich in a few minutes. Actually, no, I won't do this for right now. I'm going to give you a little something that we're going to be doing later on in the second half. And that is to show you what happened to me on Twitch on Friday night. I went live on Twitch from my living room. I was playing PlayStation. I decided to play a game of baseball. The first game I lost 3-1. It was an agonizing defeat. I was completely impotent. There was nothing I can do. It just sucked. Okay? To the point where I said, guys, there's about a handful of people that were watching on Twitch. And I said, guys, I'm just going to switch the game. They said, no. Just play one more. And I am so happy I listened to them. Because what happened next is something I had never seen before, may never see again. And that was a game was generated where the person that I was playing was designated as the home team, which means they get to pick the stadium. And when the stadium loaded and the game loaded and it was time to throw the first pitch, I said, where the fuck are we? What is this? I know every minor league stadium in that game. I know every old stadium in that game. They have some classic ballparks there. And of course, the current ones. So what is this? It looked like a weird, strange dream. Everything was out of place. Everything was just messed up. I said, is this a custom park? What is that? It's just so disjointed and strange and dreamlike and all that stuff. Well, the dream started becoming a lot clearer as time goes on. And I have that Twitch broadcast ready for you tonight. And I have some timestamps of how the shocking realization of what we were looking at right there, the creation of a madman, started becoming abundantly clear to us in the wee hours of the morning. And we will do that in the second half at some point, and that'll be that. Because what do you want from me, man? I don't know anymore. I don't know these things anymore. Things change constantly. But I'll tell you one thing. What we saw on Twitch that night, it was not going to be done again. There's going to be so many changes made to PlayStation. Because you can't even say anything off color in a private party on PlayStation. They got all those communications monitored. If you say a slur with your friends, and I'm talking like a C- grade slur. We don't have to go through all of them right now. My buddy Mike has been timed out for saying really just stupid shit. No, I mean like innocuous stuff that we would consider innocuous, harmless even, and I just couldn't believe it. We'll get around to that in a little bit, but take a gander at this. This is going to set the tone as far as where we are and as far as where some of the elections in the country are, where they're being steered and by whom. Here is that one Frances Gill, a girl from Los Angeles who is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and she is talking about criminal justice reform in an astonishing way. So I want you to listen to it, because this should be a little bit of a bellwether of at least where the youth is What's manifesting inside of the youth right now?
On law enforcement is to defund police, ultimately to get rid of police departments, correct?
Well, what I would say is that we're dramatically overspending on police right now.
I understand, but the goal is to defund the police departments so we don't need them in the future.
I think it's what we really want to see is a horizon where folks are not reliant on armed enforcement to meet our public safety needs.
Right, but it says defund police on the website. That's your goal. And also to get rid of prisons and jails, correct?
Yes.
Well, you weren't supposed to read that. You weren't supposed to read that. That was for our more disabled followers. But okay, let me find a way to get out of this.
So if my daughter is assaulted and raped, is there any agency that would seek to find her assailant and bring him to justice?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
What
Absolutely.
would it be if not police, and where would he be if not a jail?
So I guess I really want to avoid getting kind of caught into these hypotheticals and talk more about the reality that we're actually facing right now.
Yeah, that would be it. That would be it, little girl. I'm telling you, all civil rights, we have to figure out a way. We have to figure, I know this has become a meme, but I really want to start stripping people of voting rights because I think it's as fundamental and as commonsensical a thing as just having a height limit or a height requirement on roller coasters, you know? For somebody to sit up there on the news, and I would give her a platform too, to be honest, because this is so bad. This is so bad. I can't imagine that any middle of the road Democrat type is going to hear this and say, oh, this is promising. She just called a fundamental question about maintaining public safety a hypothetical. I mean, a hypothetical, someone is sexually assaulted in the streets or something like that, and the need to go apprehend and bring the perp to justice is a hypothetical? What kind of a world are they envisioning? It's just absolutely batshit, man. And you hear it a lot more these days. You hear it very proudly too. So I want to talk about, you know, what's actually sticking and what is really just out of this world entertainment for those of us who have fewer dollars to spend at a movie theater. So they just put on the local news and there's some socialist there burping up nonsense all over themselves. And man, here's a sight for sore eyes. I haven't seen him in months. Rich, how the hell have you been, man?
Living the dream, Frank. Living the dream, brother. It's good to see you too. It's good to be here. It's been too long.
You look nice and tan.
Thank you. I'll take it as a compliment. Listen, in between all of the crazy, you got to take care of yourself. And that includes time for yourself. You know what I mean?
I do. Can you put your microphone up a little bit?
Yeah, this is now like a common problem. I think my children come in and play People's Pundit and knock into my volume.
They do. They do, because I know what Aurora does. So, yeah, absolutely. But that's it.
The light went out, too, because they knocked the light out. Hold on 1 second.
See? You see?
Yeah, I'm good, though. Go
See
ahead,
the war zone that every studio is. You know, Rich, sometimes I'll go into my, sometimes I'll walk into my office, Rich, and I kind of know that Aurora's in there because I can't find her, and she's just waiting for me in there. And she turns the swivel chair to face the actual doorway, so that when I walk in the chair, she has a marker in her hand. She's pretending it's a cigar, and she turns around like she's Dr. Claw or something like that, and she goes, "Oh, hello," like she's some kind of a kingpin. I said, "Who the hell do you think you are?" And
I have you, Daddy, right? Is that what she says?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
I have like the cutest picture, brother. It's like, and I still show it to her because now, of course, she's older. But my daughter, who's my middle child, she used to, back when we had the other offices in Gainesville, which I loved because it had this like waiting area, and then it had my office, but it had the show where the show was separately. And she used to sneak in there, and she'd go in front of, back then it was all green screen, you know, and she used to sneak in front of it because she liked to see what she could put behind the green screen. And I have the cutest picture of her sitting on the desk like this, looking at the thing. It's so adorable. And, you know, she's mimicking Daddy. It's cute. It's cute.
You got to keep those memories alive. But yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you've been taking your peptides too? You look like you put some muscle on, man.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, health is important. important. Yeah, I definitely have been, for I don't know now, better part of a year or something, maybe. Real I lost like, I guess it's been like 15 pounds now, 15 pounds of fat, and gained somewhere around the line of like 20 pounds of muscle or something. Like
Good,
yeah, I've been working at it, man.
good.
I got stuck in during the Trump era being a pollster. I'm not your average pollster. I think everybody knows that. And I'm not that guy who sat in a cubicle with his pocket protector and his glasses like Poindexter, with the statistics, like that's just not who I was. In the Trump era, it pinned me in, bro. It did. It just pinned me down. It's been like one election. It's after another. You know how we usually have like breaks in this country, but the Trump era has just been like that. And it's funny because your poll, I voted in it, and I voted that I'm completely burnt out, and it's just my job. I have no choice. But I can't say I watch it less because I don't. I have no choice. It is what it is. I have to pursue it. But there's no doubt that I think a lot of people, including myself, are just feeling like it might have been a lot of effort for nothing.
Well, I there's no getting around it. I mean, I don't know what the hell. I'm not on the inside. I'm not getting any inside baseball on your end there. But just from me having to be out and seeing what everybody's up to, just because of the nature of my work too. It's been, I know, a pretty contentious year for you. Yeah. I mean, you're standing on what you believe you're seeing. You're trying to get the word out there. You're getting some people agreeing with you. You're going to war with many others, and it hasn't been as much of a love fest as we've seen in the past. So, I knew when we get some updates with you tonight, it was going to be from a point that we usually aren't speaking. You've always come on this show and talked to me about hard truths and things to look out for, and you're not trying to sugarcoat the tack. But I think a lot of people are checking their watches right now because all of a sudden it's the midterms, and yeah.
Brother, it seems like time flies by, but I remember coming on your show before and then the night of the 2018 midterm election, because I've been down this road before, but I think there's something different about this time, and I know what it is. And I understand why I'm getting so much more pushback than I normally would get. But in 18, somewhat of the same thing happened. I tried to tell them you can't break a 7-8 year campaign promise and then not expect to be punished. There are metrics in my business. Betrayal is a metric. To a perceived betrayal of the voters is a metric. It pointed to definitely losing the House. They did well enough in the Senate, but I remember coming on your show and saying, Frank, the House is gone. I remember telling you specifically, Ted Cruz could lose. This is going to be very, very close in Texas. And that ended up happening. So it's like, to me, one thing that surprised me is that after all of these years, I guess I did think that I at least earned the right to not have to be questioned by wannabes and losers who actually don't do the job I do after 10 years plus of calling every election in this country correct, especially the most difficult ones. If I'm telling you there's a problem, you should listen. And it's just funny that the people that I'm getting pushback from are not people who matter, which is they matter as far as like they interrupt the narrative and they confuse the president. But like the White House knows I wasn't wrong. Like, I mean, I don't know why you're on, like, not you, but I don't know why some of these other idiot wannabes are on X, like arguing with me.
Well, let me,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's just get right to that. And then I'd like to ask you all different types of questions. First of all, I opened up with this DSA woman from Los Angeles. I'd like to ask about that in Wisconsin and Maine. I'd like to ask you a question about New York real quick. Then I want to talk about the polling you did on disclosure. So I want to walk through it, but this is the first thing I want to bring, because what you just said right there is setting the table for a lot of other things. Yeah, Robert Barnes was on a broadcast with Judge Napolitano about a month ago, maybe less. Yeah. And I wrote down specifically some notes for the next time you and I spoke, and here is the night. He said that he was very, very specific. Rich Baris was providing data and advice directly to people at the White House.
True.
So what can you tell us more about with that?
So, I mean, there's a couple of things, but I mean, I'm sure he was referring to the war if he was on Judge Napolitano, correct?
I think.
Yeah, and to be clear, the president's typical pollster had almost identical results to our results. The difference is how they are presented to the president, and whether or not that particular pollster delivers the meaning to the president correctly and accurately. And you're a New Yorker, Frank. I'm originally a New Yorker. Excuse me that I don't think some pompous, privileged dude like who's got a brownstone and chills in Greenwich Village more than he does at a Walmart has any idea what MAGA will or will not tolerate in this country. It is very different to one. Okay. There is a very big difference between ascertaining vote preference or support and oppose on any given question or election. That is very different and much easier than being able to ascertain people's true intent and their true feelings, their true hopes, their true fears. And unless you do what I do the way I do it, you cannot do that even being a regular pollster. And on top of that, layered on top of that, is that unless you are from our side of the tracks, Frank, you will never understand these people. And I think that's where a lot of these people they faffoed, bro. They effed around and they found out. And, you know, they pushed the boundaries of his bond with these voters to the point where it snapped. And now we're at a point a year plus after me first shooting the flares in the air that everybody knows I'm right. Everybody knows that I was right. I don't know why we spent a year arguing over it. Why? Because you wanted to cover for a lobby being too strong for the president to be able to resist it, to refuse them. Is that what this was all about? It came at such a great cost that for those of us who have been doing this, trying to give voice to these people for over a decade, I mean, you effectively wasted our life. You effectively wasted our time. These people are mad. They're not coming back anytime soon. I hate to break it to everybody. I'm not trying to doom. I mean, this low IQ nonsense and these terms, it's just disgusting, bro. If you're on the Titanic and you see the iceberg coming, because what? You like the captain of the Titanic, bro? You're going to pretend like that iceberg isn't in your way. And then when the people are yelling that the friggin' iceberg is right there, you know, you get shouted down. When the iceberg actually smashes into the hull of the Titanic and rips a giant hole in it and that shit is going down, whether you like it or not, are you going to sit on the deck of the Titanic while smarter people are trying to tell people to get into the lifeboats and salvage what we can? Are you going to sit on the deck like a stupid low IQ idiot and yell at someone, stop dooming, bro? It's the Titanic, bro. Stop dooming, bro. I mean, it's just the lowest form of intellectual discourse. It's not even intellectual. It's the lowest form of discourse. At this point, I have like no appetite for it, and I certainly can't abide by it. They were wrong. They should be under a rock at this point, hiding from the American voter and hiding from public eye, because they should be humiliated by what they have done.
Well,
and what they, I mean, it's
okay. Well,
I can't even imagine being them.
Well,
I couldn't.
You are coming from this. You always take, you never shy away from talking about your personal opinions on things. And then of course there's the science aspect of your work. So, you know, sometimes they align, sometimes they don't. And when they don't, that's when you see a lot of, you know, frustration and almost like alarm, which some people would, I guess, see as doom. I never got really offended by the stuff you were putting out there, just because I notice how many people in my life, you know, who were singing a totally different tune the last 10 years are wondering why the hell we need to take a detour through the Middle East again and all that other stuff. And I'm not, and I'm just listening. I'm not out there to proselytize or anything else like that. I just listen to people and I hear all types of stuff. I hear hopeful takes on things, strategic takes on things. There's a lot of 5D chess theories out there still, which I dismiss out of hand, because if we're ever going to take a step into the right direction together, then we all have to see the same things, and it can't just be all, Little Orphan Annie Dakota ring nonsense. We have to see the same things. But
brother, let me just say, as somebody who had a a crystal clear line of sight to the decision making process, there was no 5D chess. It's not like, I wish there was. There was no grand scheme like Victor Davis Hanson, who I otherwise respect. And I don't mean to call him out because I'm not criticizing him, but this is a perfect example. This is an otherwise very intelligent man talking about how this was really not about Iran, and it was really to hurt China and this. No, it wasn't. It was about the lobby being too strong, and Donald Trump deciding that he would listen to Israeli intelligence instead of US intelligence, and that he would listen to fake CIA polling instead of trusted pollsters who have given him their honest take, which, by the way, in many cases came at their own expense to their own reputation, because in order to do that, we had to fight everybody else in the world, and gave him a fighting chance. And instead of listening to those people, he listened to the people who hated him his entire rise and re-rise in his comeback to power. And I wish there was some kind of 4D, 5D chess scheme. I really wish there was. He's easily glazable, bro. All right. I mean, if you stroke the president's ego and you talk to him the way that he likes to be talked to, you get further than the guy who talks to him in a way that perhaps he doesn't want to be spoken to, but it's the way he needs
so
to.
So this was a very specific batch of analytics that they asked from you, or are you still providing information to the White House ongoing, or was that just a very short stint of, and are they more receptive privately to criticism than the movement is publicly?
Privately? Yes, absolutely. That's yes, 100%. And I don't, there's no agreement or anything. But, contrary to what, you might, like you just said, contrary to the discourse publicly, privately, it's very different. And I don't want to breach anyone's confidence, but they'll say, hey, are you working on this? Tell us what's going on with this. What's your take on this? You have any polling on this? Can we look at polling? Can we do so? It works like that. It's not like there's some secret thing going on. There's just some people who value what I have to say.
Well, so, there's one thing I do know, Rich, and it's not you're never you only have ever expressed the deepest desire for this to be a successful administration, because that just means everybody works it. So I don't know. I just think about this shit. Well, okay.
Frank, what I wanted to warn everyone about, and I don't mean to interrupt, but what I wanted to warn everyone about, including, unfortunately, people in this administration who don't have a lot of DC experience and a lot of governing experience, that either they get their way or another lobby gets their way, or the American public gets their agenda. Washington, D.C. cannot walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. The minute those bombs fell on the Fordo site, your chance of getting anything directed towards solving your needs and your problems was gone. And that's what a lot go back, folks, and find me a recent administration who was able to make meaningful domestic reforms and change, fighting a war at the same time. George Bush threw his entire presidency out the window. He got tax cuts, right? That's what he got. Did he get any meaningful change to limit the size and scope of government? No. In fact, he gave us the exact opposite. He gave us the Patriot Act. He gave us the Department of Homeland Security. He gave us TSA as part of it. It never works that way. Liberty always is always spent at the because of it's the cost of war. And that's really what it comes down to, which is why our founders were so adamant about giving the power to declare war to Congress. And not to go down an academic conversation here, but we are a self-governing society. I told them they would end up in this situation. This was effectively an unwinnable war because you didn't have the support of the public to do what needed to be done or needs to be done militarily. in order to achieve what your aims are, what your victory, what your objectives are. You can't do that in a self-governing society unless you have the people on your side. They were never going to have the public on their side for this war, Frank. So he didn't even try to sell it, which is something very uncharacteristic of any president. We had almost, how long did George W. Bush sell the Iraq War? How long did George Herbert Walker Bush sell Desert Storm? How long did FDR attempt to sell World War II before we got into it, before he looked the other way and forced the Japanese to bomb Pearl Harbor to get into the war? Because his attempt to sell the American public on it was not working. The only thing that worked was the USS Arizona being a tomb for 3,000 sailors. That was the only way he was getting in to help his friend, the Brits. So they just didn't understand this, and the president convinced himself, but look what I did in Venezuela. And by the way, you said Venezuela would be unpopular. It's popular now, which it really wasn't. Nobody gave a shit about taking Maduro. They cared about cost of living. They cared about affordability for homes, for food, for gas, for everything else, for healthcare, which is now number 3 most important issue this election cycle. And Democrats have a trust advantage on it of more than 20 points now, almost. So not almost, it's like 22 points. The administration simply did not focus on what they were elected to focus on. And instead, they did the one thing that the president promised for a decade he would never do. And don't run some clip of Oprah, what remains of the MAGA cult. Don't go run some clips of an Oprah interview before millennials were even born or have their first memory lodged in their head, because millennials are the one who delivered the election to Donald Trump, not Fox Boomercons. Fox Boomercons aren't even a majority of boomers. They were the only ones who even came close remotely caring about supporting this war. Everyone else felt grossly betrayed, and unfortunately, that's the reality. And there's no point to deny it, because if you're going to start to or hope to address it, you have to face it, and you can't keep dismissing voters' concerns and crying about socialists.
Well,
if you cared about socialists, you would never have sacrificed the America First coalition for Israel.
There's a chilling effect, and I see that's why I see it. Like I said, you've been mired in the middle of a real, a nasty social media war that is all infighting. It's taken form in so many different ways. The Charlie Kirk debate is another form of that war. There's a lot of things that are happening right now that just like
Charlie was against this, by the way.
I mean, listen, I look.
Charlie would have been right next to me.
My default. Yeah, I mean, listen. My default would be, what the hell are we doing? It still is, and but my question is this, because there's a lot of people who are either finding a way to just say, all right, well, I got to remain hopeful, and I just got to take care of what's going on at home. And there's God knows what the hell can happen in the next 2 years. And maybe, hopefully, there is a history that's made. And then I want to be wrong, because all the pieces I have to analyze right now, I feel like I've seen this before, and I kind of know how it ends. And it usually doesn't end for like 25 years. But
that's right. Thank you.
Let me ask you this.
Thank you.
There is another response to individual or group disappointment with one president or another, whatever, that I've seen that I really don't understand. The latest person to do it, but he's certainly not the only one, and I don't know if it's just tongue-in-cheek or if they're actually speaking real. Owen Schroyer recently went so far as arguing that Democrats need to win to stop Trump from doing further damage. That's his quote. Now, put aside personalities. Is there any strategic logic whatsoever to Republicans deliberately handing Congress to Democrats to make things better?
Okay. Because we are hearing this now in the polls articulated by young men, particularly, but they have a coherent, logical argument, and I'm going to say what it is. And I'll be honest with you, Frank. I mean, it depends a lot on what JD is going to do, the choices he's going to make, and the people he's going to surround himself that are going to decide where I come down on this. But there is, and let me tell you, let me lay both sides out real quick. One side says all you're going to do, that's not the right mode. That's not the right path to go down, because all you're going to do is exacerbate the problem and accelerate the rise of the socialists. Because trust me, guys, we're not getting Democrats back. We're going to get fanatic socialists.
That's what it seems like.
Yes. And but look, the last time there was a betrayal like this, it gave us Barack Obama. So, I mean, this is where we're headed right now. It's actually looks right now, 2026 looks a lot like 2006 to me. And it'll only get worse, though, because what happened when Barack Obama didn't deliver? We got Donald Trump, right? And while the left couldn't understand how that was possible, that's what happens. There's that argument, well, it only exacerbate that, and you're just throwing to the country to the socialists. Their argument goes like this, and here's the logic of their argument: that the party, because Trump threw us under the rug, dude, for the establishment. That's it, for himself. And I have some insight, and I think I know a little bit. I just don't want to, I hate pretending like you're digging around in someone else's mind, like you know their mind and their heart. But I can just try to put yourself in Trump's position, folks, and honestly, as much as angry as some of you may be at him, try to understand from his point of view. Maybe he's thinking about protecting his family. Nobody else did. Maybe he's thinking about what happens to not him, because he'll leave this earth, sooner rather than later. He's not a young man. But what happens to his family when he's gone? So, he's trying to make sure that they're secure, and he's also been shot at a bunch of times, right? So I'm not making excuses for the man. I'm just trying to say, put yourself in his position. It's not as cut and dry. Now, their argument is, well, then he shouldn't have taken the job because this was our last chance, and he squandered that last chance. And now that he did this to us, he made the Republican establishment stronger than they were and stronger than they have been for a long time. And what is that? Why does that matter? When the establishment of a party is strong, it means you cannot reform it from the inside. Trump was only able to take over the GOP in 2016 because it had been weakened badly from multiple defeats. The 2010 and 24 midterms were low turnout blips. They were not affirmations of a strengthening party. They were very, very weak. Reince Priebus ran the national organization, the national committee, into the ground. State parties were defunct and bankrupt. Those committees had no money in them. So when Trump came around, their ability to stop him was nothing. It was Fox News yelling at boomers not to vote for Donald Trump. By that time, the betrayals had piled up so much, it didn't matter what he said or what Fox News said or Charles Krauthammer said or Mark Levin said or Mark Thiessen said or Ben Shapiro said. By the way, all the losers who he decided to make friends with, who now got him in this situation, who never built this coalition to begin with, they're coalition parasites. They basically drain the life force out of other stronger winners because they can't be one of them themselves. But I digress. All right. Nothing they did to stop him worked because the voter was so pissed. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case right now. And you're looking at an election where 28, where, I mean, I don't want to throw anyone's confidence out there, but whether or not JD Vance can win in 2028 may just simply come down to whether or not the American public sees this administration as a success or not. If they do, then he can run. He'll be seen as the heir apparent. They'll want to keep things going on the same course, and he'll win easily. But if they don't, and they see Donald Trump as a betrayer president, which is where we're at right now, then he'll be stained with it to the point where he cannot win. Marco Rubio, for all of these Rubio fans out here, which is all AstroTurf nonsense from the White House lobbyists who got positions way too close to the president, Marco Rubio can never win a presidential election. If you can't win Bucks County, Pennsylvania, you can't win Pennsylvania. If you can't win Pennsylvania, you cannot win the presidency. Maybe after 2032, when the census changes reapportionment, we get a change to the Electoral College, that math will be different. But Marco Rubio has zero chance to win a single Rust Belt state. So that leaves JD Vance, and that's it. Their argument is we're going to lose anyway. So all we're going to do is waste time pretending that we're all unified and everything's hunky-dory and kosher when it's not. We should break them up now. We should hurt them now because we can weaken them now, and then we can do something better and real in the future. That is a real argument. And I hate to tell everybody out there, it's like, see, I told you Owen was a Democrat. Like I saw these idiots on X. Owen was MAGA before MAGA was MAGA. All right. And Donald Trump didn't make up MAGA. Ronald Reagan said, make America great again. Donald Trump didn't make up America first. Republicans from Calvin Coolidge said, we have to put America first. We have to put Americans first. Don't go into the First World War. We have to put American businesses first. These phrases have been around a long ass time. And Owens' demographic is the demographic that you simply have no prayer to win a national election if you don't get them on board. So it's a logical argument, because at this point, the only one who can fix this fracture, and there is a fracture, is JD Vance, because he's got to put it back together. He's got to go back out and he's got to say, I may be with the tech bros, but I'm not with the neocons, and I'm not taking money from them. So don't worry, Tucker, you can come back. Don't worry, Joe, you can come back. Don't worry, Marjorie, you can come back. Don't worry, Thomas, you can come back. Don't worry, Alex, you can come back. Don't worry, Marjorie, you can come back. What do all these people have in common? They're either OG MAGA or they represent what was truly new MAGA in 24, and they brought along the numbers that got us a winning coalition. All of these other people out there, they dismiss these criticisms and these people fracturing off. You act like you had a 10-point popular vote win or something. You don't. And let me just give everybody a little bit of a stat, and then I'll kick it back to you, because this is real, and these people can destroy the Republican Party if they choose to do so. So instead of, mocking them and making fun of them, you should be trying to figure out how to court them back, because you chase them away for a tiny parasitic sliver of the coalition. Neocons are nothing. They're literally dying right in front of our faces, people. Lindsey Graham just corked off out of nowhere. Mitch McConnell is still alive, but he's not, okay? They're literally dying in front of our face, and you're sacrificing the future coalition, the future of America, our future ability to win elections for these dinosaurs who are going extinct. And the truth is, the comet has been heading to Earth for years. They just never saw it coming because they're too stupid and too old to see it. So this is the stat, and I'll kick it back. In November of 2024, 40%, and by the way, we had the most accurate national poll in the country in 2024 before anyone gives any wise-ass comments. We literally nailed Donald Trump's vote margin. We edged out the Wall Street Journal, who had the second most accurate one. In our polling, which we track every month, 40% of the electorate said they were Republican. Of that, about half said that they were America First and MAGA, right? Quick napkin math, that's 20%. Right now, today, about 29, 30%, maybe 32, but let's say 30, say that they're Republican. Of that, 45% say that they're America First or MAGA. That's 13%. MAGA has shrunk by almost half. And that's if you include those who say that they're America First, Frank, because we actually push people and say, well, which is it? Are you more America First or are you more MAGA? And America First cleans MAGA's clock every month.
And that's not because of time of the year, time of the voting cycle. Like, for example, like primaries, we know that Democrats show up in force for primaries, and Republicans kind of just like waft through it. And it's not like that.
No, this is national tracking. It's an absolute disaster. And by the way, as this has been going on, the share of Democrats who identify with some form of socialism, because we'll say, we'll say, do you identify as a traditional liberal? Do you identify as a democratic socialist? Even do you identify as a socialist? As this has been happening, the number that is combined of people who identify, Democratic voters who identify as socialists, has just kept ticking higher and higher. I mean, they're effectively a supermajority socialist party now.
You see, the thing that gets me, and I know,
which we warned everybody would happen.
Well, I can understand why it would happen. Yes. You're explaining things to me, and I still don't find myself in one place or another. I lament the whole situation. I wish we were having the biggest fucking party. I just wish it was just party time right now. But I understand why socialism, aside from the fact that we still have not broken the grip and the back of American federal education and everything else. I understand where if things are not getting better.
Which he tried in the beginning. He did.
Yeah, I know, but it's still just too. And there's great local things going on, state to state. There's good school choice battles being waged and won, even though ultimately, I don't want any federal money in the states. Period. But it's things are getting better. They really are. I don't like. either way, if affordability and shit like that is not going to get better for people, and we're not, and this is supposedly for some people, I'm thinking psychologically, for some people who are already left leaning, seeing that, well, when the right wing has control, things are not getting better for their prescriptions, even though the prescriptions are not right wing.
That's right.
It's not, I should say, not conservative, not free market based, all that stuff, not freedom based. It's still all very central planned. Then of course natural instinct kicks in for kids, and they're like, well, it's not getting better under anybody, so I'm just going to continue to vote for the pie in the sky utopian Mamdani types who are going to steal from those who are probably really just at the root of all this evil, and that is those who have. To take from the haves and give to the have-nots, and that will be the America that we've been promised all these years. And of course, there's very, very low shelf life on that point, on that road there too, because it might be happy times in New York for some people right now, but it's not going to be for much longer. What their prescriptions for everything from groceries to congestion pricing and everything else, that's not going to last years. That's going to be a fucking hellhole. It's not going to collapse tomorrow, but it's not right. And I can understand psychologically why people would think, well, this is probably the best way to go, if they don't have any understanding on how these things usually end up.
Which they don't. And what you described, by the way, I mean, everyone's talking about it now, but this is something I've been warning about for a year. I wish I would have wrote it faster, but just the nature of how things go, Frank, I don't even think we talked about this. I mean, I'm sure you saw me share it on social media and stuff, but I didn't get a chance to talk to you and tell you when we got this book deal. And you try to put a book together as fast as you can, but it's the entire thesis of Burn It Down, which is the new book. It's on pre-order on Amazon now. You guys should definitely go buy it because it is the conversation we're having right now. Burn It Down's thesis is the central theme of the 2026 election, and it will be the central theme of 28. Who knows? Because like you just said, in truth, it doesn't, these changes, which end in disaster, don't happen overnight because people don't really, first they think they're getting what was promised to them, but socialism and left-wing populism always end up in disaster. And the thesis of the book, to dumb it down, is, look, the problems that younger generations perceive to have are not fake. All right, that's number one. They're just not. Then Gabe Guarderini, his forward, I needed a younger Gen Z guy who understood the thesis to write the forward to the book because I needed it to come out of the mouth of one of them. I'm a millennial, but I'm on the edge of Gen X. I'm the oldest kind of millennial, right? I'm going to be 45 in October. I needed somebody from his or her perspective to give it to people with the bark on in the most layman way still that they could, because in some ways the book was a way to get older Gen X and boomers and what remains of the silent gen, which isn't much, to understand the mentality of younger voters. Why? Because the thesis of the book is simple and is as follows. It's either MAGA or Mamdani. And by MAGA, I don't mean this new fake Mark Levin version of MAGA. I mean the original promise of MAGA. National economic populism and resurgence and prosperity, or widespread prosperity, or you're going to get Mamdani, which will be sitting there dangling. They were frauds. They were fakes. They didn't help you. Come over here and we'll give you what they promised because we're the real deal. And they'll go for it. And actually in Mamdani's election, you could even see it. There's a lot of, I don't know, it's not proprietary. It's just a lot of data that we didn't release. That's in that book. A lot of analysis people are going to be stunned over. One of them is, this overlap between Mamdani and Trump's vote. People who did vote for Donald Trump just a few months before, in retrospect, less than a year before. And then wound up, voting for somebody like Zohran Mamdani. And people think that they might hear that and they'll say to them, hey, that's not possible. That no one who voted for Trump would ever vote for Zohran Mamdani. Wrong. And we put a number on it. And then the same thing you can see in other places. How much of Trump's vote Josh Shapiro won in the state of Pennsylvania, running for his good, tremendous amount, 16% of them. But ultimately, the real underlying theme of the book that people need to understand is that this idea of socialism and what it stands for, what it means, it's been diluted so badly. These younger generations simply aren't afraid of this word.
No, they don't
Frankly,
get it.
they're not.
They don't
And
get it.
they don't get it. And unfortunately, they believe that the ruling, and they're not wrong, the ruling class feeds itself, the old order, feeds itself, but at their expense. And Donald Trump was their last chance to try to reform it. It was their last hope to reform it. And if Trump lets them down, they're going to burn it down.
Well, let me
And
ask.
they're going to. It will be the revenge of the millennials, brother, and we are effed.
Let me ask you this then, because here that is a little bit more of a broader question, but a little bit more of the fine point that we see coming out in both Maine and Wisconsin, and even just with the table set by this DSA woman, Frances Summer or something or other from Los Angeles. What we saw in Wisconsin, and I honestly, I wouldn't be able to explain what we were seeing with the USB, the missing USBs. I don't know if they were ever accounted for. I don't know if there's any suspicion there. I mean, I have to be honest. I don't know what was even happening in Wisconsin, but when you're watching election fraud deniers on MSNBC and CNN and all that stuff, have to pick their words carefully about what they're seeing, because it's races that are pitting Democrats against Democrats, but they're two different types of party members. And it's to even call it a victory for the more mainstream guy in Wisconsin, the fact that he beat a Francesca Hong type by a half a point is not a very big victory. And so as far as the infighting within the DNC, is there any panic there, or are they okay with the transition?
Well, there's panic, and there's panic for one reason. It's just a matter of the old guard and who runs what and then who funds what, because the DSA is being funded by a different wing of the donor class. Now, the difference between the left and the right is the connection or the similarity or the synergy. It's almost a symbiotic relationship, right? The donor class on the right doesn't share anything with the base, and it's a major problem. On the left, that's not really true. They have some differing issues, but the major separation between the DSA and the so-called moderates in the Democratic Party is twofold. One is the Democratic Party still has a fascist-like arrangement where their donors in big business and other heads of industry, they are, I mean, it's fascistic. Like, if I support you, then the government will direct my capital, my labor, right? They'll tell me what to do with it, but I'm going to get money for it, and that's okay. So I'm willing to make that trade. To the DSA, they don't like those relationships, or at least they espouse that, because they feel like it's selling out to corporate America. And of course, the other big difference, which is a big difference because it's a lot of money, is this, what I just showed before. Democrats have almost no support in their base for the state of Israel anymore. It is a political pariah on the left. However, they get a lot of money from a lot of left-wing Israel lobbyist types. There still are left-wing Zionists in this country, and they have a lot of money. And that is going to be the problem. So the reason there are those reasons, like who's going to control that infrastructure, who's going to call the shots, and that is part of the panic. The other part is there's still a wing of the Democratic Party, Frank, that doesn't believe the DSA is ready for prime time. It's not even like they have a whole lot of disagreement with them. It's just that they feel like they're unelectable. And we noticed this even going back to 2020. Only 40% during the Democratic nomination in 2020, only 40% called themselves Democratic Socialists at that time. Now it's 20 points higher, right? But they still said they agreed with Bernie more than they agreed with Joe Biden. The difference is they thought Joe Biden could win and Bernie Sanders could not. That was the argument a lot of these post-Maine, because they learned after Maine, when they got to El Sayed in Michigan and some of the congressional races in the 1st in Missouri and the 7th in Michigan, they realized we have to make the electability argument because Democratic voters still do care about that. So even though the voters and much of the establishment agrees with basically everything the DSA is saying, apart from maybe corporate lobby here and there for certain industries, or maybe some of them disagree with the DSA on Israel. That's not their problem. The real problem is that they feel they're unelectable. And at least at this point, notice, they embraced El Sayed.
Well,
right?
what's your theory about? You're just talking about left-wing Zionist types that are giving a lot of money to the DNC. What's your theory? Because I mean, I have theories. It doesn't shock me that you'd fund an enemy or fund somebody that doesn't like you. I mean, the SPLC was paying the KKK to keep them alive because that boogeyman was useful. So why would you, for a party that is almost entirely, at least on the surface, anti-Israel, why do you see left-wing Zionist types giving to the DNC at this point?
This is one of the reasons why we call evangelicals evangelicox, because what a lot of people in this country, especially on the so-called religious right, don't understand, a lot of the Christian Zionists who are right-wing don't understand, is that they do that because they don't give a shit about you. And they don't give a shit about the Republican Party or the viability of the Republican Party or the success or failure of the Trump administration. Their loyalty is to Israel. And if they buy both sides, then guess what? It doesn't matter who wins or who loses, they still get their way. That's it. And I think a lot of people just won't allow themselves to believe this, especially on the religious right, because they have connected themselves an almost kinship that they feel with Zionism and Israel, the nation of Israel, as a nation state, not as like the Bible's Israel, which isn't the same thing. They have this kinship with it and they think, well, they're on our side. No, they're not. They don't care what happens to you. They don't care what happens to your churches. They fund the pastors to feed you doomsday slop so you get up and go vote for their candidates and you support their nation's agenda when your candidates get into power. But the reason why there are a lot of Democrats who still take money, you need money to win elections. That's number one. But number two is because, unfortunately, you're going to go and buy. It's the same reason Donald Trump donated to both Democrats and Republicans, because Donald Trump had an alternate agenda. He was a builder, and it didn't matter who won or who lost. He wanted to be treated well by those politicians. He wanted them, when they got into office, to take his position and what he needed into consideration. And he did that openly and talked about it openly during the 2016 primary. That's what the Israel lobby is doing. They don't care about the survival of one party or the other. They're using both sides. And the right is just unfortunate, because if the right ever found out, especially the evangelical right, if they ever found out what their beliefs were, their true beliefs were, they'd feel like total cucks, which is why I call them evangelicox. You do understand that in order for them to get their way, you have to go down. You understand that, right? I mean, I hope everyone understands when they have this kinship with Netanyahu's Likud party and his Orthodox, coalition members in his government. I hope you understand that every day they pray for your demise so that they get what they want. That is their theological beliefs. Sorry to break that to you, but you are being used to defeat their enemies. And what happens in the rubble? They get it. They get the spoils.
Well,
that is literally their end game. And it's just unbelievable. The left, they're more realistic about it. I just want the money. I just want the money because I want to win election. I want to wield power. And that's it. And the right is like off with, we're going to help bring God's plan into action. They remind me of climate change crazies on the left. Do you remember, you're an old fan of, you're a fan of old comedy too. You remember George Carlin? You remember George Carlin's skit about how stupid left-wingers were because they thought like we were going to stop climate change?
Yeah, save the bees, save the trees.
The paper bags, God forbid we drop a paper bag, right? Or a plastic bag. We're going to stop Mother Nature. And it was just so hubris, the hubris, the arrogance in it. It was a fanaticism because that was their religion. And they really felt that they're so important and they're so consequential that they can stop the climate from changing, from going through its natural changes.
Notice that's gone.
The way the right is.
That's gone right now too, and I saw that climate change would drop to like number 15 on everybody's. It's like when you're fat and happy, you have that's something you're only concerned about when you're bored, and you need something to panic about. There's a lot more that people are putting ahead of fucking climate change at this point. But speaking of
AOC freezing her eggs.
I know.
Frank, why would she freeze her eggs if the world's going to end in 12 years? It was supposed to end 12 years from now, 12 years ago. Those poor little eggs, they never stood a chance against those
I know. It couldn't have been 12 years ago that she said that. She said 12, 13 years were gone. So I would have to imagine that I mean, what the hell's the point of putting, shooting up your stomach with all that shit? If everything, big tidal wave. Then again, who the hell?
The religious right is no different, is the point I was trying to make. Like, you really think so much of yourself that you think you're going to push God into acting? Even Jesus Christ, who you claim to follow, said that nobody knows that hour except my Father, not even me. But you and who? Benjamin Netanyahu? You're going to force the Lord's hand and build the third temple? Guys, you're crazy.
Well,
I hate to tell you.
Speaking of
right?
rubble,
Get on medications, man.
Speaking of rubble, because you brought that up before, and one person's plan is another, one person's demise being another group's year zero, and a chance to rebuild. 25 years, September 11th.
Jimmy Swaggart got his airplane.
Who's that?
These televangelists who started this whole relationship, like Christian Zionism in its form today, is a new thing. Frank, Zionism was not a widely held American Christian belief until the late 70s, when Begin won with Likud and started financial relationships with televangelist Christian pastors in this country. John McCain called it heresy in the early 80s, so it wasn't even taking root then. And they flooded pastors like Hagee and Jimmy Swagger and Jerry Falwell. They gave all of these people, they showered them with millions and millions of dollars. Jerry was running around with his own plane too. I kid you not. Paid for by Likud and the foreign ministry. And they were paid to preach doomsday theology, which got a lot of pushback at the time, but eventually Reagan unfortunately did massive damage when he accepted it into the fold. And then he basically converted to Christian Zionism, and that was the end of that. So then it became dogma on the religious right. Before that, though, it wasn't. I have a whole episode, guys, of Inside the Numbers. You can also check out what are the odds with Robert Barnes. We went through 80 years of polling data on Zionism and views in the U.S. toward Israel. This is a modern creation. Go look up how long ago the word Judeo-Christian, hyphenated Judeo-Christian
Oh, that we've
values.
done a lot of.
Give me a break. This is a creation. And that's another part of Burn It Down, by the way, is like even younger evangelicals, they don't believe any of this stuff, Frank. So like the Israel's day, they went about this the whole wrong way. Israel's day in this country is numbered. The support for it is going to be nil in the very near term. And the only people they currently have support for among right now are Republicans above the age of like 60. Everybody else is...
I'll tell you that concerns me for another reason that we don't have to talk about right now, because I think about what the play there is. I don't know. We'll talk about that some other time.
And it did to me too, which was meant to be a warning, but of course they took it as like, I mean, if you come off the talking points a little bit, the knives come out, and it was like, look, you have your own internal reports that you've asked me to look at, which they have, and they knew this problem was real even before they started this war. And the last thing they needed was to be seen as hijacking the presidency that was viewed as the last chance at redemption by most voters in this country. And they did it anyway because they just didn't care.
Well, I was going to ask you about your thoughts, because I don't know if we're going to if we'll speak before September 11th, and it's 25 years, and that in itself is just incredible. The passage of time is sick. But before we do that, I guess I was reading this Reuters Institute article. I sent it to you. Some polling that they did on digital media, and here's just a little bit of just what I took away from it. 2026, because I think it has to do like with the big picture view of how everybody is metabolizing the stuff, digesting the stuff that we're all living through right now. We see things that we like, seeing things that we don't like. We are varying levels of hopeful. Our faith brings us different places. We're all living exactly the way we want to. With that, I would just say we have choices to make as far as how we're going to live in the world among all amidst the craziness. And I think that this is really telling. First of all, 2026 Digital News Report, it says that the global trust in news has fallen to about 37%. It's the lowest since Reuters Institute began measuring it in 2015. In the United States, it's 25%. Among politically right-leaning Americans, it's just 15%. Meanwhile, the share says that it's extremely or very interested in news that has fallen to about 13% points since 2021. This has to do a lot with our chat poll today. 27% globally now get some news from news-focused independent broadcasters. 46% get some news from creators of any kind, but only 3% rely solely on digital creators for news. Now, that's fascinating in one respect for me, because I wonder if this political exhaustion is beginning to become something that pollsters have account for. I know that you do. It's not just like, and not necessarily apathy, but actual exhaustion. But the thing that I wanted to throw up here was, I think was interesting. The biggest part about it, it's not just so much about the news cycle. It is something else that is pretty unique to the social media age, I think, Rich, and that is how it's overriding how news is covered, and that is the drama attached to it all. I've got parents of my own. I've got cousins. People out there have ex-wives and husbands. You got bills to pay, midlife crises you're going through. If tuning into the news means that you are also inheriting the personal and professional feuds of from 15 different internet personalities, after a while, I'd rather watch somebody mow their lawn as well. Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, there's so much feuding. It's all that drives media, right? And I feel that it is part of the exhaustion and the frustration of not getting anything else to do, that now everybody's just sniffing each other out, accusing each other of being a fed. Perhaps sometimes they're right about that. I have to imagine that since digital went from the television to mostly the internet, and it went digital and everybody started getting independent with it, that a lot of that money, and you needed a lot more to direct the news agencies, $10,000 gets you a long way on the internet, or that $7,000 number that's become the meme out there too. So I think that's really what's the most exhausting thing for me, is that I go on X a little bit less these days, because all I'm going to see is someone I know fighting somebody else that I know. That 2 years ago everybody was cool, and now it's just like, shit, man. Yeah, it's like the Italian wedding. Like who's sitting where. You don't put this one next to that one. You're not going to be spoken to for 5 years. That's just become that's why I just try to find other things to talk about most nights these days. Because what the hell? It's one thing to get the news. That's exhausting enough. But to adopt everybody's personal feuds is just, it's manic.
Yeah, I think that you're making a fair and accurate point. I was just talking the other day to somebody else about this. He's an influencer. I don't want to blow him up or anything. Been around a long time. I think he's got like 4 million followers or something. But he's like, do I need to start a podcast? Because they're just nobody's talking about anything. He's like, and by the way, I resist doing that on our show. I like to talk about news and numbers, but the only time I will bring it up is when I think it is important to lay bare someone's prior statements and point of views, because a big part of this Elon Musk could fix right now, and X could fix right now. It's not that bad on Instagram. It's not that bad on TikTok. It's not, and I just got on TikTok, but X specifically has become a cesspool for foreign agents and people taking money. This is a real problem. It's something, by the way, I tried to press the administration to deal with. We need explicit FARA extensions for social media. And I know that there have been some people who have argued, legal minds that have argued, it's already there. Well, apparently the world doesn't know that, because a lot of these personal feuds are being started as proxy fights between other interests, like paid interests. And because there's not much money anymore in being honest, a lot of people buckled and just took that money. And so it became, not, here's a great example, the Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson back and forth. That happens like every day now, right? It's like, look, Ben is being paid by certain people to make an argument to benefit a foreign nation and its interests. And I have no doubt that Ben is, earnest in his beliefs in favor of that foreign nation. But in order to do that, they have to try to tear down the guy who has a growing audience and is making more gains with the public than they are, right? One represents a majority point of view in this country, the other one does not. So a big part of this is that they refuse to do this. Like the government itself refuses to get involved. It shouldn't just be Israel. It shouldn't be Qatar. It shouldn't be Turkey. It shouldn't be this. It shouldn't be that. If people are being paid or have a business or financial relationship with a foreign entity and they are espousing their beliefs that benefit their beliefs that benefit that foreign entity, they should be forced. Like the paid partnership label, Frank, is not good enough. This thing is causing entire fights and feuds, what you're talking about. It's not even really, this one against this one. It's this one's benefactors, whoever they're getting paid by, versus this one. Another one just went over to Russia, to Ukraine and sat with the president of Ukraine. A person with deep mental issues that everybody knows is not a stable person. And yet somehow she gets flown to Ukraine to have a sit down with the Ukrainian leader. And then what happens? It turns into attacking every personality that doesn't support money to Ukraine to continue the Russo-Ukrainian war, right? Or continue supporting the Ukrainians in the Russo-Ukrainian war. If they had far extensions towards social media and people were afraid of being prosecuted, Frank, for doing this, then I think we would see a lot fewer of those feuds. But I think the poll is also picking up on something else, which is, I need to stress this to make it as clear as I can. For a lot of people, especially people who don't typically vote for a living and just engaged in the process or re-engaged in the process in 2024, this administration was their last hope. I can't overstate this enough. They felt that this system is completely broken, and there was really one chance or one attempt to right this thing before it went down. And the degree or the level of hopelessness now that's out there, it's unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. Frank, every poll, we literally talk to people who have suicidal ideations. I have never done this in my career before. Listen on the other line as the interviewer is literally like they're a counselor instead of a polling interviewer talking to some 35-year-old male from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, who wants to blow his brains out because Donald Trump failed him and the country's going down the tube and he has no promise for any future. It's unbelievable to me that and I'm not alone in this, by the way. There's a lot of people who don't interview the way that, that we still do, but those of us who do hear it all the time. There's a level of despair out there and a level of disappointment. People will hear it like it's anger when they watch these feuds on social media, but in the real world and among real people, of course, anger is an easy label to put on it, but it's not. It's a disappointment. And I think that you're seeing people check out of it. And so I'm not surprised that actually those people who went directly to independent online creators and online sources no longer view those sources as such. Number one, they're not independent anymore. And number two, they no longer even want to hear from them because they feel like it's just pointless. We failed. That's it. That's how they feel. And I know that sucks for a lot of people to hear. And I am, contrary to popular belief, myself, my person, I'm conveying other people's opinions, which is my job. People forget. But, my own is I'm more like you, honestly. I think I'm a little bit eternally optimistic. I think these people are going to come in and they are going to burn it down. And what will be resurrected from those ashes will be better than what we have now. Because unfortunately, I don't see an internal possibility for a solution here. I just don't, there needs to be different people who get elected that aren't part of the ruling class or the pedigree, right? The political pedigree. And it just seems like nobody can break through. Unless you're a billionaire with universal name ID, you're not going to be able to break through that. Look what happened to Graham Plattner. I don't agree with the damn thing, Graham Plattner said. I agree with what he thinks of society. I don't agree with his prescriptions for it. That being said, look at what they did to him just to take him out. You're a dude, I'm a dude. Let's call it how it is. Those women were mad he didn't call them back the next day, bro. That's what that was. I mean, that's all.
This you're talking about from Maine?
Yes. Those are women who slept with Graham Plattner and he didn't call them back and they were scorned. And it's like, oh, he assaulted me. Oh, he took it when he was drunk, when I didn't give my permission. Oh, give me a break, lady. You made a bad decision and now you want to hold it over me because if you were, I understand there's different behavior for there can be sometimes it's difficult to understand the behavior of people who have been sexually assaulted, women particularly. I know that's true. I get that. But would you really be texting back and forth with your girlfriend saying he didn't call me the next day? Don't go out with Graham. Don't go out with Graham. He snuck in my house in the middle of the night and raped me when he was drunk. No, it was don't go out with Graham because one night when he came to my house and slept with me after he was drinking, he didn't call me back, that son of a bitch. And then I found out he slept with a bunch of other girls after. That's a scorned woman. And yet the right jumped all over that guy because they were afraid of him. They were afraid. And by the way, to all the right wingers who did that, you're stupid. Graham was probably the easier person to beat, and now you just gave Susan Collins a generic Democrat in a blue state to run against. So they duped you. Democrats got rid of him and jumped right all over and helped them do their dirty work. And what is that going to do, though, Frank? It's going to cause a chilling effect. Average people cannot sustain these kind of drip, 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 death by 1,000 cuts attacks. Every time they win a primary, that's what's going to happen. That's what the political pedigree is going to do to them. It didn't work on Trump because Trump had money and he had universal name ID. What they did to Graham Plattner will work, and it will work on more people. So average people, good people who want to run for office because they really want to try to make a change and they see things that they don't like, they're not going to do it because they're going to look at it and they're going to say, whoa, I don't need that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't need that. No doubt. I'll be sitting right here come hell or high water. And both might come. It might be hell and high water. You just never.
Both.
They both might come. Okay, so Rich, I mean, I can't open up the UFO can of worms tonight then, because it's an interesting, really a great poll. I want to talk about the things you pulled away from it, but. Obviously, it's been almost like 2 months now since anybody's even said a peep about UFOs. It's such a cold item.
It's so sad, though, isn't it? Honestly, I mean, it comes up when they need to distract people, Frank.
But it wasn't even that.
Deserves more than that.
I know, but it wasn't even. It was. I don't know. It was very weak. The whole thing was very limp-wristed, and that's why
last one, that last batch disappointed a lot of congressmen and women.
I didn't even know what the hell had happened. It's like the lead up to the Disclosure Day movie was interesting, not because anything was very impressive to me, but I just kept thinking to myself, well, if you keep turning the heat up, you eventually got to give something new to people. And
that's exactly what they didn't do, though.
I know.
That was underwhelming.
I know.
I don't want to blow up exactly who it was, but there was one video in particular that 3 of them expected to come with this release. It would have been a big drop. And I can tell you off air exactly what it is because I know what it is. And they were just stunned. Like, what the hell was this? Is not that video. They wanted, I mean, this would have been a very compelling.
An actual alien autopsy video?
No. It's a craft, but it's something that
is it the thing you saw?
It's not the same thing, but it's big, and it's who else is observing it when it's being filmed. It's and where it comes from when it comes into the film's vision.
It comes from the ocean.
Yes, it comes from the ocean.
It comes from the
Did
ocean.
We talk about this?
No. I'm just.
This is.
I know what it.
And it's massive, and it dwarfs. I'm just gonna say it. F this. It dwarfs the size of the ship And this ship is, of course, massive. And this thing comes out of the water, and you can literally see the water like falling around it. It looks like, bro, you remember First Independence Day, the movie?
Yeah.
The first one? Bro, it looks like that thing, like the big one. It's massive, and all the sailors are like, what the? And that's the craziest thing about one of the things that we tested. And I know you don't want to open a can of worms yet, but check this out when you can. Go and look, because one of the central claims from these guys and all the ATIP guys is that we're not only are we seeing them, but we're seeing them with increasing frequency, and they're targeting, for some reason, our military installations and personnel. So we did drill down specifically on that subsample to see whether or not we could validate either of those claims. Are we seeing more over time, which we can easily see with age signal, and we can see through active versus veterans? And is it true that military members are seeing more with greater frequency over time? And I'm just going to tell you, I mean, a spoiler alert for folks, it's significant. It's true.
Well, we saw more of this coming out of like a Colorado and stuff. We're talking about giant triangles, not just the smaller ones. It's not TR3Bs or anything like that.
No, what I saw, bro.
Well, you were talking about something about the size of a football field or larger. No,
if not 2 football fields, it looked like a floating city. It was huge, and it became a point in the sky, in space, in the blink of an eye. And it's also what it did, which, since I've like immersed myself in this, because folks, when you see something like this, it'll break your brain. And I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. And by the way, some of the results of that study had to do with religion and the impact of religion in other areas.
I read that
on disclosure. Didn't you find it funny?
I guess we're just doing this now.
So many people did not think that the existence of alien life, extraterrestrial life visiting the planet, it doesn't prove that God doesn't exist.
No.
At all. And people don't believe that. So it's like, for one of those, those arguments, well, it'll break faith. It won't actually at all. So, I mean, maybe that would have been the case 50 years ago. I don't know. I didn't pull it 50 years ago, but I'm saying now it doesn't. And 25% of the American public thinks that aliens probably had some hand in our engineering, like the entire DNA engineering theory. 25% of Americans, and go put that against the crosstabs with religious detail, and you'll be stunned. Like, there are that many Protestants who are like, yeah, I mean, maybe.
So wait a second. The people who think that there was some sort of biological alien genetic meddling to create us the way we are right now also are identifying as Christian?
Lots of them do.
They don't see the contradiction in that?
They don't. They feel like maybe, and we asked them, they're like, you know what? It's possible. What did God create Adam by, and what did God use to create Eve? Yeah, maybe it sounds like it to me. It's stunning to me. It really is. So let me just, existence of alien life disproves. No. Here it is. DNA engineering. Agree or disagree is how we did it, which is incredible. If you go by religion, let's go by religious detail. Overall, folks, 22.4% of the public say they agree that aliens probably did have some hand in creating human beings through DNA engineering. That's 22.4% overall. Protestants and Christians, 20.3%, not much different. Catholics, 29% of Catholics say yeah, I probably agree with that. That probably happened. Christians that are Baptist, Lutheran, Episcopalian, Methodist, Adventist, or Seventh-day Adventists, and Presbyterians are also 21% who agree.
So there's a fifth. There's a fifth of everybody. A fifth to a third.
You know who doesn't, which I think is the funniest out of them, and I mean there's subsamples, but no religion is actually slightly lower than the national average. Muslims, it's a small subsample, but Muslims, they are one of the most open-minded toward alien existence, which I just found to be crazy. I thought like maybe Mormons would be, given their, alternative, stories about how they have the real version of Christianity. I'm not putting anybody down, saying, like, there's a lot of alternative takes on the Mormon Genesis story, or the Genesis story of Mormonism.
What was the sample overall? Like, you say 20% of
3,000.
3,000? Okay.
Yeah, it's big, bro. It's big, I mean, and by the way, it's so when you're actually looking at some of the religious detail ones, it's actually more than that because they're weighed down. So that's what you're seeing is the calculations that are reflected from rake weighting. Is so the overall raw from that sample was larger. So I know it's stunning, and even for Muslims, which were one of the smaller ones, it's still kind of stunning, Frank, that we would get those results.
Yeah, it is stunning. And we have to, I think that's what I would love to just, for the rest of the year, I'd love to start just bringing you on periodically to talk about interesting, spooky aspects of life that's going on around us. And, like heavier things like I want to talk about the USOs, man. Like what the hell's going on? It's shit.
Brother,
if that came out, if a video like that came out in some kind of a drop,
it exists. It exists. And Republican congressmen and women who are about as people of faith as you can conceive are like, okay, they're on our oceans. Like, I mean, it's like that. Now, what is it? Who are they? Well, we don't know, which is why biologics would be the better way to go. If you were going to do this, if the president was going to do this, which I know he has given, they in the first administration took this seriously, and are in the second as well. No matter what he said, you remember when he talked to Tucker, and Tucker was like, "Listen, I know Donald Trump, and I know when he's lying." And he flatly asked, "Hey, do you know more about this than you're letting know?" And Trump was like, "No, no, no." And then he flips back to his program because it was a pre-taped interview, and he said, "That's lying. He's lying." They were definitely lying, and I get why he's doing it. I just think that the time is over for the lies. I think our results are very clear. I do know some other people, since I published this story, more people came to me and were like, "Hey, we've actually done similar work. Check this out." And it has been shared with people. So I know that I'm not alone in this. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Frank, how we defined alien disclosure, which was the U.S. government announcing that alien life exists, extraterrestrial intelligent life exists, and it has been visiting planet Earth. That is what we have defined as disclosure. If the government did that, if Donald Trump did that, it would not break society. And in fact, most people hold a lot of hope is a good word, that it would help us in the advancement of various things, including science and technology, which I'm sure you looked at, but science, technology, medicine, politics, religion, those are less, hopeful areas, but still most people view it that it will have a positive impact on society, and very few think that it would end in the total collapse of our society. Very few people think that is true.
No.
So just what people are like, it might help us.
I'm one of them. That's the one thing I never thought it was going to be some crazy thing. Because there's no waiting on that one. If we were supposed to be wiped out, we wouldn't even know it happened. If
it would have done it.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, but you know what, man? It has been so long. I'm glad that we got nearly 90 minutes in with each other. This was wonderful. And, I'm sure it's going to be a lively comment section when I go and check it out tomorrow morning. But whatever. It's good to catch up with you and let everybody know where they can find your work. Of course, president of Big Data Poll over here. I got the locals link in the description of the episode. Tell everybody when you're broadcasting, what's coming up next.
Yeah, and I still love you all anyway, despite what you might have said in the comments. Look, we're Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Today was a little bit messed up because we usually do What Are the Odds with Barnes, but Wednesday and Friday is going to be Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. We always do a road rage on locals, which don't worry, YouTube, we're going to be getting to you soon as well. But they can follow me anywhere, Graham. Locals, on the Gram, on locals. We just got the Instagram. It's at peoples_pundit. Same thing as on X. And then on TikTok, it's people's.pundit. I actually got the username, which is stunning to me.
Nice.
But I know locals. I couldn't get my actual name though. Somebody took that. But yeah, I mean, locals is always the best place, folks. Peoplespundit.locals.com. Peoplespundit.locals.com, and go pre-order Burn It Down. I'm telling you, it's the most important political book of the Trump era, hands down.
Thank you, Rich Baris, and send my best to Laura and the rest of the family.
Always will do, brother. Right back at you and yours. Give them my best.
Okay.
All the love, brother. See you soon.
Take care. Be well. Okay. All right, everybody. Listen. Give me a buzz. Give me a buzz. Remember, we don't have an intermission video. We don't have an end credit video. Well, I can play it, but you're not going to hear anything, so I'm not going to play anything. I'm just going to talk with you guys for a few minutes. We got the lines are open. There's got to be something on your mind. Call in if you agree. Call in if you disagree. You don't have to go running away mad and all that stuff and leaving a stink. You just call in and talk it out. What is it? What is it? Because I see and I hear people expressing all different types of opinions. Many of you have called into this show and have sounded much like Rich. And then there are others who call in and say, guys, calm down, trust the big man. Trust God, and we're going to be getting through this. It's all right. This is not like everything else. I've brought on the Promethean action people. That is the exact opposite side of the perspective pool than Rich. So you know that this is really curiosity and, of course, a close friendship. So I just wanted to see what the hell's up with that, and it was good to hear from him again. Nice and testy, of course. 914-200-0269. Pick up your phone and give me a buzz. Let me see what's going on with the super chats. Okay, Rumble, which I'm sure has been very, very polite. Let's see here. Nephilim says, cheers, Frank. Let's lighten up the vibes with a donation to the Coconut Fund. Thank you. Hey, the vibes are light. What are we going to do? What are we going to say? Jay Semmel says, great show, but very sobering. Well, hey. I mean, I'm pretty sober over here. I don't know. I don't know. I'm always going to be hopeful. I have not thrown Trump out with the trash or anything like that. Some of you called in and say, Frank, I'm off the train. I'm like, well, I don't know. I've never really been on trains or bandwagons. I've cast votes and I've held my standards high. And whenever we get something good, it's time to, pop a bottle. And when we get something bad, we go, all right, I'm tired, boss. But what are we going to do? We got to keep our heads up, keep our chins up, all of them. All of them. All right, over on Pilled, people are hanging out. Flappy says, Frank, we'd love for you to have Derek Johnson on. He's known for explaining how current activities are all outlined in laws, orders, legislation, and military publications. Well, send me something to read. I don't know. Sentinel says, how did Iran humiliate the U.S. in the late 70s? Have never been put in check for over the years. After the failed Carter Special Forces missions, this is from Sentinel, of course, I should say that again. The U.S. funded a failed proxy war using Saddam Hussein that failed, tried bribery with the Iran-Contra. Then we had the attack on the Marine barracks in Lebanon, the USS Cole in a Saudi port, the insurgency in Iraq, the Obama deal. We had to stop half measures. Iran wants a nuke. After Operation Epic Fury started, they attacked all their neighbors. They have to have their teeth permanently pulled. That's what Sentinel says. Sentinel, of course, is an active member of the military. Calls in, and this has been his position on it. No, this is not like everything else. We had to go in there. Of course, the one thing that I have always said is messaging. So I was talking to Rich. He does get a lot of pushback from 5D chess people. And I don't care about people having a theory, and I love seeing how people are, how the pieces are lining up and how they see a something developing, but lasting change means we're all going to have to see the same thing and know what happened. You know, we have to all see the same story. You can't tell me why what I'm seeing is not real because of a novelty theory that you are in on with 25 others in a small Telegram chat room. And that, you know, that's like the new secret cabinet on Telegram. And that we just have to wait and see, that we're not privy to the Telegram knowledge. You know, I'm interested in that at all times. So give me a buzz, 914-200-0269. Michael, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Frank. Yeah, Rich Baris, he mentioned Judeo-Christian. The first time I heard that term was in the early 80s when I was in college in a philosophy class, and that immediately rubbed me the wrong way. And it's got me thinking about like a number of other sorts of terms where it's like they try to limit our thinking in terms of what the language is. I mean, capitalism right there is a I don't even believe there is such a thing. Well, I mean, you can say there are people with pools of capital and capitalists. Their goal would only be, or not really, but would only be to, you know, run the machines 24/7 and get the most profit. I mean, that's a natural economic decision. But anyway, another one that I had heard when I was working at a big cereal plant in Michigan was something they tried to push in there, and it was our shared values. That immediately rubbed me this wrong way too, because I'm thinking, you know, I don't share values with the corporation. I share values with the Christian church. You know, on my own, I decided that Jesus was, at the very least, a really good guy, maybe actually a divinity, you know, but shared values with a corporation, no, thank you. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to that, and even you can even go to UFOs. I noticed that they use two different terms sometimes for the same thing. In the 50s, it was flying saucers, and the official term was UFOs, up until 70s or 80s, and then it was UAP, unexplained aerial phenomena. And now, because they see them sometimes going submersible, so it's UAPs and USOs, you know. But I mean, that's fine that, you know, we would change the parameters on some unknown phenomenon because it's doing things you don't quite understand. But
well, yeah, you know, word games. I understand what you're saying, Michael. Especially when you talk about. Oh, well, we get a little bit of feedback there. Especially when you're talking about corporate messaging. I mean, that all is just nuts, and we get a lot of that. You know, widespread from coast to coast. You know, shared values. American. You hear these people. You know, oh, I don't share any values with these people. I don't think I share any values with the person that's speaking right now. What are they talking about? What are they projecting onto me? What are they trying to manipulate, at least not me, but somebody around me, into thinking, oh, yeah, you know, these are our shared values. You hear it so many times, it just becomes something that you think, and you repeat it over and over again. Capitalism versus the free market, that's one thing there, too. You know, capitalism, we've talked about it. There's a big focus on who owns assets, private property ownership. There's nothing wrong with that inherently and all that stuff. But, you know, it's when you think about just the free market and how goods are exchanged, that's the real thing. The intellectual property rights and private property rights. Yeah, it's always good to be able to talk about how to be able to enforce those and to keep people's rights to the work that they are able to produce secured. And that was one of the very small amount of things that that is actually taken up by our federal government, the protection of intellectual property. But, you know, free market is all about how transactions voluntarily kick up between buyers and sellers, and you know, how price, you know, supply and demand, how it affects price and all that other stuff. All that goes out the window when you have these big corporations or a government that is starting to act as corporate, and actually in a fascistic way pairs up with insurance companies, or puts their weight on insurance companies to start doing things like taking away laws of supply and demand for things like insurance, and saying, no. This is not about risk taking. This is about, you need to guarantee. This is welfare program now. This is a welfare program now. You're giving everybody your stuff. You're giving everybody that. Everybody gets the same thing. There is no. So we get a lot of that shit. And of course, human rights, civil rights, everybody gets manipulated. 100%. So that's part of just electioneering too. It's a big part of electioneering, and that's what everybody gets so tired of. Like, whenever somebody says something like equity and diversity and equality, my heart fucking just like deflates, falls into my shoes. Like, ugh. You know what that means? Like, for to be able to have that kind of visceral reaction to words that are, you know, I guess if you're stoic about it, I guess they could all be like indifferent, whatever. But we all know what that means as a colloquial experience. Equality, justice. Those are very positive, affirmative things. But we know it's all bullshit. We know who uses those terms and for what reasons to justify what kind of theft and what kind of what kind of aggressive behavior. We know what that kind of, it's all bait and switch nonsense. So this is part of what gets people really, really bummed out, and why we can't just keep griping about it every night. But at the same time, it's you got to be able to kick over some rocks and just assess what's under there. Let's see. Diane V says, I'm tired, but damn, the alternative would have been 100 times worse. Rich has been cloned, in my honest opinion. There's a lot of people who think Rich has been cloned. I don't know why. This has always been Rich, in my honest opinion, but I understand. Like I said, you know, it's the first time he's been on the show in essentially 6 or 7 months, and in that time, it has just been all out war, and the people are going through all types of divorces. You know, God knows how many people are going to swear me off now because I just spoke to an old friend of mine tonight on the show. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. That's how personal it is for people right now. Let's see here. Tracer says, late fee because my 78th wife said better late than never. Actually, she said, OMG, you are such an asshole. Thank you for that, Tracer. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. 817, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, this is Cloud9.
Hi, Cloud9.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Rich didn't bring up the fact that Republicans are terrible at messaging, whereas liberals are typically really good at capturing the language that most Americans really just adopt as language. So, for example, climate change, right? It all started off as global warming, or really global cooling, then global warming, and now it's climate change because, well, I mean, it just captures, it's a one catch-all phrase that you can use. So in the same way that you could use Black Lives Matter to galvanize a supporter base, you could basically say anyone who's against Black Lives Matter doesn't really care about Black lives. So in the same manner, when we're talking about conservatives not hitting base or being out of touch, I mean, this past, 2 weeks? I don't know if you saw this, Frank, but 2 weeks ago, I believe, end of July, Texas just passed a law that prohibits THC products making it not only a finable offense for up to $10,000, but reclassifying it as a Schedule 1 drug in the state of Texas by the Department of Health and Human Services, or Texas Health and Human Services. So now it's actually punishable for up to 2 years in prison. So that means if you have a vape pen on you that has THC in it, you could potentially go to prison for up to 2 years. And of course, this is what's giving the Senate candidate for the Democratic side, James Talarenko, the same guy who said that God was non-binary. Yeah, that same dude, more galvanized base to say, point the finger and go, see, look at how bad the Republicans are. They're so out of touch. So please vote for me for Senate. And this is what I'm talking about when we're looking at conservatives, old school neocons who are a part of that boomer group, or the evangelicals who are really out of touch with, the Israel question. It's going back to this. They're self-sabotaging behaviors. They don't understand what young people find to be, at least within the conservative side of things, what issues are taking hold. It's Israel. It's, foreign domestic policies involving, should we be over in foreign countries, establishing a tyrannical police state with flock cameras, flock safety.
Yeah.
How am I going to be able to pay taxes if I'm having to pay an extraordinary amount in homes? But all of that being said, what are you taking away from this?
No, you're right. I mean, listen, MAGA worked. Make America Great Again. Where, even though, like I say, it was a redub from the 80s. No doubt, it worked. It got the left to say time and time again, America was never great. That was actually really great messaging right there. All you got to do at that point is just be relentless in not caving to anybody, especially since that everybody around you is the reason why you're in there is because we want to see the people who are incumbent, especially the bureaucracy, get torn to pieces. And to be completely, I don't want to see anybody working with the bureaucracy. I want to see somebody paper shredding the bureaucracy. Even if you get into the worst public fights with one agency or another, people are on strike, great. I want to see that. And it was, and you know what? We lose track. What the Republican Party does often, like you said, thank you so much for the call. So we're coming up on the end here. It became a one time. It's not a one time. It's everything. Where the Republican Party always loses, where they saw a budding, really good movement there. Their first instinct was, how do we kill it? And that was one of the trade-offs of having to go and present yourself as a candidate for one of the two major parties, knowing that a third party run is not, it's just not feasible. It's not feasible. A really strong third party candidate is there to split the difference for one person or another. We know that. Saw that with Teddy Roosevelt. That's why we had Woodrow Wilson. The Bull Moose Party gave us Woodrow Wilson in the First World War, essentially. But, it's just one of those things where there was plenty of organic and great messaging there. And then you get into a place that you're supposed to be destroying. And I understand why you have to try to be diplomatic a little bit to move, because, one person against a hulking 150-year-old bureaucracy, you got to be, you have to be in some ways kind of savvy like that. And it's not like we haven't gotten anything, and things have been, I would not have wanted to see the alternative, but damn, I think there's a lot of unforced errors here, and the Republican Party just at large is just a terrible organization. Really awful. Who was also really good at messaging too, that we get to appreciate a little bit more now, a lot more now that he's gone, was Charlie Kirk. Someone like him, you want to talk about messaging to younger generations. And I was one of those people who knew he was out there, saw a lot of his material, appreciated every time I saw someone like it's Charlie Kirk in particular. Every time I saw him speak in public, I understood my limitations as far as debating and recall and all that other stuff. Is like, that's just next level shit. And the fact that that was a driving force behind a whole new generation of people, that's what makes that a huge, huge loss, because you're not getting that messaging from the RNC. The RNC is there to make sure that that party remains in proper orbit around the collapsing nucleus that is the central government and its bank. So, I just wish that there was a way to save the kids from socialism. Anybody who's watched this show for a good amount of time, I've never was out there trying to get people to sign up as a Republican and join my party and all this other shit. No, that's definitely not the solution. Definitely not the solution. It's been a strategic thing. You play tic-tac-toe from time to time. I mean, I've only ever voted for Republicans in the last few cycles, and that was just because hopefully I can just be a part of something that blocks this other thing from happening. Not because I have high hopes that this one representative is going to do something good for me or my district or a local election or a national one, whatever. It's like tic-tac-toe logic. So I just wish we can save the kids from socialism, because they're really, really dumb, and they didn't have a chance. This is what they has been groomed into them by these freakish witches in their preschool since they were 4 years old. And now they are in New York City with their green hair and their bull rings through their nose. And they're just, they think that it's everybody that has more than one home that's the problem. That's not how you get your first home, by taking away somebody's second home. That's not how you get it. That's not how you become independent. But it's been sold to them in a very seductive way, and there is real social and socioeconomic pains to keep their attention. Like, they can see that they're living in lack. So, and there are people who have been working their entire lives who thought that they'd be able to just, kind of start enjoying a retirement at an age that was younger than 70. So it's really just a matter of your perspective and what tools you were given to discern what's going on around you. Some people see what's wrong and they want to deregulate and they want to cut and eliminate taxes and they want all that shit to go away. And they know that that's going to give them the relief that they need and also restore some kind of independence. There are other people who don't know what those tools are, because every last one of them have been classified as something that is like something cooked up by Hitler since the time they were 7 years old. A reduction in taxes? What are you, Hitler? That's what it comes down to. Oh, man. Oh, there's so much. So we couldn't get around to anything else here tonight. We couldn't get around to much else, but it's all right, because tomorrow's Tuesday. I have a couple of things I'd like to do. Zoso Dude says, great to see Rich again. He was spot on tonight. Road Trip says, best show of the year so far. Thank you, Rich, for sharing some hard truth. The Only Space Mummy sent over a super chat. And Jay Britz started it all off with the super chat. Thank you. And guys, for tonight, listen, this week, who the hell won it? What is Delona? Delona didn't want the dongs. She didn't want the so I got the 3,000 Vietnamese dongs and the $20 billion Zimbabwe hyperinflation note. So the hyperinflation cash will be in the super chat raffle for this week that will be given away on Thursday night. So whenever you send a super chat or gold pill, contribution to the show, which goes directly to the production and all that's the nightly production, then you're in the running. The more you send, the better your chances. But I'm also going to, again, offset all this bullshit funny money that are just pieces of history at this point with something a little bit special. Here's a 5-ounce piece of copper, 250 years of America. This is a 5-ounce one. This is the big one. It's a big, heavy coin. Look at it. You can almost cover my entire big, goofy face. 5 ounces of copper. Pure. 1776 to 2026. United States of America. That's what we're starting with. I'll add more as the nights go on. Everybody who already sent in the super chats, they're already in on it. Now, as far as tomorrow goes, I mean, I'll have a lot left over from tonight. Oh, here's one for you. Cabinet member. I think you all know her. Her name is this is the Loeffler woman, right? She's been getting a lot of shit from people because there is a strange video that was sent out from the SBA. What is her name? Hold on a second. I got her here. Oh yeah, Kelly Loeffler. So she's a small business administrator at the SBA. And they released an extremely awkward promo video last week, of course, that went viral for all the wrong reasons.
We're all ready, so.
Okay. Administrator, we have some questions for you here at TikTok.
What's going on, Mac?
First of all, are you in the cabinet?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I am. After I had an incredible conversation with the president by phone.
So, okay. So, as people are, commenting on how she's 8 feet tall. She's one of the aliens that was running around Miami a couple of years ago that they sent the National Guard in. She has 3 feet worth of neck. I'm hearing Deuce Bigelow references, Mars Attacks references. She's walking like a baby giraffe because she's in high heels. I don't know. It may be one of the worst videos I've watched in a long time. But I don't know what's going on here. So that's from the weekend. That was one of the funnier things that went on. People said it's AI. It can't be real. Seems real to me. I don't know. But tomorrow we're going to have some interesting updates on some things that are going on, including this one. I want to talk about this tomorrow, maybe too, or just a part of it. Should letting children play alone outside be a crime? Because in some places it is. And I know times have changed too, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get the same answer from everybody. Maybe I'll get some nuanced answers about it shouldn't be a crime, but modern times say that we need to take some things into consideration and blah blah blah. Especially as so many DSA candidates out there are like, let's get rid of all the police and find a more diplomatic way of bringing violent offenders into custody. Custody meaning a place, just a place somewhere. This was sent to me by somebody in the audience, and I don't know. It's called Poorly Aged 80s Commercials, Episode 16. This is the warning signs of satanic behavior, and that's always fun. So let's take a listen to this.
Warning signs of satanic behavior may be apparent, such as a sudden, bitterly antagonistic attitude towards family and religion, listening exclusively to heavy metal rock music, almost to the point of addiction. When one or more of these warning signs are evident, you should look further for ritual items such as a pentagram or other satanic symbols, black or red robes, a decorative dagger.
I found his decorative dagger. It's real.
Knife, a chalice or goblet, black candles.
I can just imagine the kid getting on the phone with his buddy. They found my goblet, bro. I'm fucked. They found my goblet, bro. I'm fucked.
Personal diary with a black cover, which is called a Book of Shadows, and copies of publications, such as the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals, and possibly a small makeshift altar. If you discover items such as these, Experts advise you contact your local law enforcement agency at once.
And also call Ghostbusters. You've got to call them up as well. I don't know. Have you guys ever discovered that? I have a few of them. Some I found the pimp goblet. They found my goblet. Oh, man. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. Anywho, thank you guys for doing a little bit of a roundup of everything tonight. We're going to go. Oh, shit. Okay, listen, I'm going to do the Twitch thing. I'm going to bring you guys over to first of all, you guys on podcast land, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. You have to see it for yourself anyhow. So I always share the timestamped link for the flip side the day after. I'll make sure I'll do that. We will go to the flip side, and I have to show you guys this Twitch thing. We ran out of time here tonight. There's no way that I could have taken a turn that sharp. So let's do that. Follow me over to the flip side. I got to show you what the hell happened on Friday night, and then I have to cut it a little bit short tonight because Jim Lee has to get into this computer and figure out what the hell's going on. So tomorrow we have a lot of leftovers, including some really interesting stuff, and I want to pull you guys in for the discussion, and I'm looking forward to that. I really am. So thank you once again. Where is the flip side, you might ask? Well, I'm going to put the link in the chat room right now, and I hope that you follow it. If you can't find the link, then just go to quitefrankly.tv and press play. That's where we are live. We're live on quitefrankly.tv, powered by Pilled. You go to pilled.net. You can watch right there. And that is where the uninterrupted stream from 7 o'clock start to the end of the flip side. It's uninterrupted there. All you got to do is just sit there in the chat room. And when the end credits roll, we continue on with the show for about a half hour or so. Or if we have a special guest, sometimes we'll do a third hour. And it's just where we can really let our hair down, all of my luscious locks. And that's what I have for you tonight. So I hope you come over for a little bit of a nightcap. All right? Well, that being said, I appreciate you all. And thank you again to Rich Baris. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Be well. Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience. And now, our super chatters. Starting with Zoso Dude, Road Trip, The Only Space Mummy, and Jay Brits. Thank you to our wonderful friends Jay Semo and also Nephilim over there on the Rumble. Oh, and My Creative Waves, who says Rich has lost his way. Still love the show, Frank. Well, there you go. It was always going to be a mixed bag tonight, guys, but I love mixing the bag up with all of you. I will see you on the flip. This is going to be well worth the wait. It's so bizarre, and thank you so much.